Welcome back to Shine In and Out, the space where science meets soul. I'm your host, Sammy Stoltz, and today I'm joined by Sarah Thornhill. She's the founder of Pranatova and the creator of the Breathwork Method. Sarah is a healer, a guide, and a woman who turned her own journey through trauma, sobriety, and spiritual awakening into a path of liberation for others. She helps people move from people-pleasing and panic into freedom, clarity, and authentic self-expression. In this conversation, we dive into the itty-bitty shitty committee, as she lovingly calls it, and how anxiety and panic can actually prime us for enlightenment, and why meditation and breathwork are not about perfection, but returning to your power. If you've ever struggled with people-pleasing, anxiety, or the fear of sitting with yourself and your thoughts, this episode will meet you exactly where you are. Let's jump right in.
Okay.
All right, Sarah, welcome. So glad to have you here.
Thank you so
Before
much for
we
having me.
begin, of course, my pleasure. I'd like to just get a little bit of background on who you are and what brought you to where you are today.
In a word, I'm a healer. I show people how to heal themselves, how to heal the most permanent relationship they'll ever have, the one that they have with themselves. I hope it's okay, but I call this area between our ears the itty bitty shitty committee. We're always shooting on ourselves and thinking that we are not enough. And so when we can analyze what's going on, when we can discover what's going on there, that's the first step to really healing that most permanent relationship that we have.
Wow. And how did you get into that? Did you have your own self-healing journey?
Absolutely. I mean, mindset is everything. When I first started learning about mindset years ago, one of the quotes that was at the bottom of my email for a long time is whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And,
Yes.
we get to discover what makes us tick just by watching and listening. And the clients that I work with are so interested in self improvement. They're high achievers, they're successful, they're at least ambitious. And yet, sometimes they're not really willing to discover what's going on. Yes, my healing journey started very early. One of my first teachers said that big souls have big work to do and they get started right away. And so I experienced sexual trauma from a very
Mm.
young age. I was raped by 8 men when I was 28
Oh,
years old.
I'm so
I
sorry.
stayed in the closet. Despite all of that, I stayed in the closet for the majority of my adult life, only coming out at 38 years old when I got sober because I was utilizing alcohol in order to not really admit what had happened in my 20s.
Yeah.
So my healing journey began very, very early. I grew up in a very strict home where I was not allowed to watch TV or date, or it was strict Southern Baptist.
Mm.
And so the religious trauma's there, like trauma with a big T, trauma with a little t, all of it. And I am so grateful. I am so grateful for all of those hard experiences because it has made me a badass. It has made me into a really compassionate, good listener that's also focused on solutions. I thought about becoming a therapist. I studied psychology and I really wanted to actually help people move forward instead of constantly looking back and talking about the past because I know about the neuroscience that the reticular activating system in the brain
Mhm.
is going to show you more of what you don't want if you're focusing on what you don't want. So although I led with some trauma stories, I don't focus on that. I focus on the healing. I focus
Yeah.
on the liberation, the freedom, the choice that we have in every single moment as to how we hold a certain situation.
That is beautiful. I love how you frame everything. And I think it adds more depth to everything that you're going to say going forward, because I'm sure there are people that have had big T trauma and think maybe, oh, maybe she didn't have those experiences and it was easy for her. But no, it was not easy. And you got here and you're glad to be here. And I think that's more beautiful in the end.
Yeah, they say smooth seas do not make for strong sailors, right? When we work out, we're literally like ripping our muscles open in order to feed them the right things so that, and that's the difference. Like trauma, stress, anxiety, it doesn't matter what it is. It's not what happens, it's our response to what
Yeah.
happens. So if we rip a muscle open and then don't eat or don't rest, we're not going to be able to grow the muscles. So it's all about applying the right tools at the right time, giving ourselves the hydration and the protein, if you will, if you'll follow my
Yeah, I
analogy,
love it.
and grow the muscles so that we can actually step into that highest version of self. It's really an identity. So often women come to me, men too, with an identity crisis.
Mm,
They realize that even though they've been successful and they've achieved all these degrees and they're making all this money, they're just not happy. They're not fulfilled. And they're suffering in silence from all of the what ifs, all of the
mm,
catastrophization, the rapid heart rate as soon as they wake up in the morning, the complete exhaustion at the end of the night. However, they're unable to sleep. We live in this rat race, constantly trying to keep up with the Joneses, and it is exhausting. And people wonder why they're unfulfilled. It's like we are creators, we're not consumers. We're
mm.
consuming all this information instead of actually being able to sit and allow the subconscious to bubble up with these great ideas in order to solve our problems instead of reaching for a drink or buying something on Amazon so we can get that dopamine rush to make us feel better in the moment, but it's so unfulfilled.
That is so poignant, and it's something that I've been talking a lot about lately, just noticing that nobody is allowing themselves to forego stimulation in order to take enough time to be silent with themselves. And how could you
Yeah.
know yourself if you don't do that? How could you know what you want? How could you grow? How could you actually take enough time to see that there's something going on with you that needs fixing? So I love that. I love that. Very, very strong message. I hope that comes across.
Sammy, I feel like we're going to be good friends. I tell my little 8-year-old all the time. She's like, I'm bored. I'm like, good. That's
Yeah.
when you $1 million idea. And I say the same thing. It's like, if you're going to go buy a house or buy a business, what do? You get an appraisal, you have an assessment, you take note of everything that's there. And for people that are so obsessed with self-improvement, you've got to know what's there. You gotta understand, what are the shitty things I'm telling myself all day long that I've been telling myself since I was 4 years old, 7 years old, the things that I heard over and over again that were pre-programmed that we didn't ask for, that
Yeah.
just we got for absolute free.
Yeah. So that brought up a question for me. In the way that we have those toxic thoughts toward ourselves, the people that are the overachievers, and
Mhm.
I mean, I spent so long just observing my thoughts and being so serious about shifting them and, changing my perspectives and everything. And I'm curious, I think there is a point where people like us can get into toxic healing. I'm curious, do you see that a lot? And how do you take people away from that?
It's like a modalities addiction, right? We've gotta know all the things and all the
Oh,
certifications
man.
and do the hypnotherapy and do the past life and the generational trauma healing and well, I tell all my clients, you have everything you need inside of you. Sometimes you just might need someone to show you where to look. And sometimes that person is you. And just sitting for long enough with yourself, with your thoughts, with your observations. When I first started meditating, when I was sober and I started like dealing with my own emotions because I couldn't drink them away anymore, I would sometimes sit down with a question and just become open to it. So not really, because if you look at physics, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if we're grabbing for something really like
Mm.
after it, actually has a repellent nature. But if we sit and allow and receive and allow that vibration to really come towards us, that's when those realizations will alight upon us. And at the same time, of course, at first, we are hungry for the knowledge and hungry to
Yeah,
connect with other people who are seekers. I've always called myself a seeker. And I
I
think
love
that
that.
there's nothing wrong with that. It's just sometimes we need to let the pursuit go so that we can just allow the answers to bubble up from inside.
That is so true. There is a
Yeah,
balance between being a happy
exactly.
sponge and,
Yeah.
soaking up all of the knowledge you can and letting it build itself within you as, new parts of you. I love
Yeah.
the idea of sitting with yourself with a question. Sometimes so the brain doesn't really understand the negatives. So when you say, don't run into that tree, your brain is so focused on tree, tree, tree that you run into the tree. So
Exactly.
if you're telling yourself, don't think thoughts, and I'm serious, don't do that, your brain's gonna be like, well, what do you mean? Here come my thoughts. So the coming up with a question and just gently sitting with it, I think is a lot more powerful because it can actually have an outcome for you without making you get to that place where you're like, darn, I'm so bad at this, which I think is so common in meditation and that makes people quit before they see that it's not about being good or bad at it. It's just about doing it.
Absolutely. And I think that so many overachievers they're like, okay, I'm going to meditate for 30 minutes every day or 20 minutes twice a day. But it's really just about starting the habit and just doing it for a minute or 2 or 3 minutes and just slowly increasing the amount of time. Also, for those people, because when I first tried to meditate, a lot of the mindfulness techniques are like, just see your thoughts as clouds passing in the sky. Like there's
Yeah.
a airplane over there, and then there's a building over there. I'm like visualizing all these other things in the sky. The kinds of meditation that I found really were effective. I can sit now for a long time, but at first I needed a light focus. So the breath is a good one, some sort of a mantra. It doesn't have to be a Vedic or Sanskrit or Gurmukhi. It doesn't have to be another language. But a lot of the mindfulness techniques are simply like, I am breathing in as you breathe in. I am breathing out as you breathe out. Or like, so hum. I am sat
Yes.
num. Something so simple. And you can even pair it with some sort of spinal flex, which is so good for our spine. So making it a little bit more yogic, getting into the hips, which can hold a lot of tension. So kind of Kundalini-esque and allowing
Mhm.
ourselves, you don't have to sit cross-legged on the floor. You can sit in a chair. You can just allow the sight to diffuse down the bridge of the nose. You don't have to close your eyes and sit in this weird posture, right? I think in modern society, we have this idea of something's supposed to happen to me when I'm supposed to get up and feel better. And it's not like I love doing squats. No, I like how my legs after I do squats regularly.
Mhm.
It's not about the meditation itself. It's about the effect that it has in your life. It's
Yeah,
about the fact that you've let the muscles in your face relax.
and I like that having good quad muscles actually correlates to living longer. So it's just you're
Right.
right. But you start to miss it if you don't do it. And
Mhm.
you develop that different relationship with it that even if maybe you're not excited, it's like a breath of fresh air to go into that practice. I love the physical stuff too because sometimes I'll just go for a walk and I'll just be super mindful of like every step that I take of feeling the ground under that foot. And that's
Mm,
a mindfulness practice too. You can do it. I mean, I took
mhm.
the shuttle. I took the bus from work today and I'm sitting on the bus and I was like, all right, I guess I'll meditate. So I was just focusing on my breath and it was bumpy as heck. It was hilarious. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, this is as good a chance as any to focus on that breath.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have meditated in some weird places, like in the sky, on a plane, in
Oh, yeah.
an airport, as a passenger, while somebody else is driving. It's actually a great time to just there's a practice that we can do with eyes open, even, but it does intensify it with eyes closed, especially if we're on a screen with somebody or in a room sharing literal physical space. We can feel, well, maybe not everyone immediately, but we can eventually feel the amount of attention. Like, if you're sitting there working and your partner's walking around the house, are you following them with your attention, with your energy? Or have you drawn all your energy in toward yourself? And we can do that in a yoga class or a dance class or a Zumba class or anything like that to where we can actually monitor, all right, am I pulling my energy in or am I reaching out for this
Mm.
person and connecting with them? And sometimes we need a little bit of both. We need to connect, and then other times we really want to contain our energy and not have it even across the screens like we are now. A lot of times we can
Yeah.
just really feel that energy palpably.
Yeah, I actually have noticed that a lot when I start working. In the beginning, if there's music or distraction, like I'm everywhere, but as I get into it, I'm in that flow state of like ideas and I'm
Mm.
typing away. I am I don't even notice that I've had to pee for 5 hours. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So something came up for me in that when you were talking about other people's energy and yours following theirs. I, as an empath, struggle with not latching onto other people's energies and feeling them as my own. Their emotions,
Mm.
their tension, all of those things. So I guess with that idea of being able to go back to yourself, I've never thought of it that way, that I could just focus more on my inner self instead of trying to tell myself, no, don't take on their emotions because that's what my brain doesn't understand not to do.
Right. It's that question of, is this mine?
Yes.
Am I picking up on something in their field, right? In their quantum field, or is this something that actually exists within me? And our brain tries to interpret what it is that's happening physiologically. Oh, my heart's beating fast. I must be anxious about this thing, when it could be stored trauma. It could be
Mm.
something that came up in our subconscious awareness that we're not consciously aware of. And that is causing a rapid heartbeat or rapid breathing. And we're actually not, we're trying to label it, trying to assign it, trying to make a
Mhm.
story about it, and not really aware of what's going on at a deeper level.
That's so true. Always, whenever I get into an emotion that I can't explain, I am a wreck. I am like, as long as I can explain the emotion, I feel comfortable with it and I can find a way to like make it a little better. But if I don't know where it's coming from, it's like chaos. It's absolutely the hardest type of emotion to get through because how do you get through it? I'm sure you would have a recommendation for that though.
Yeah, dropping into the heart space is really great. If you can think about breathing in and out, not your heart, but right behind your sternum in between your shoulder blades. If you can think about just breathing in and out of the nose, but from that space. So taking your consciousness and putting it in the center of your being because well, everything is vibrating, right? The seasons, the tides, our heartbeats, our lungs, everything is vibrating. Even things that look still are actually vibrating. But physiologically, the way that we create our toroidal field is with the vibrations that are going on right here. Our lungs are vibrating at a certain rhythm. And our heart is vibrating at a certain rhythm, and it's all being controlled by the autonomic nervous system. So, if we can take our consciousness into that center of subconscious awareness, that our autonomic nervous system, which is where we go into fight or flight, and it's controlling our heart and our lungs. So, if we can just drop our awareness into that place that's vibrating without us even having to think about it, then that gives us this connection where we're actually connecting our consciousness into, they say that this is the seat of the soul, that if we were to have a soul that exists beyond the physiology, that this is where it comes in, because you can survive for weeks without food and days without water, but only a few precious minutes without your breath or without oxygenated blood, which the heart is
Mm.
providing. So, this is the place of all that center of activity more than our gut. We feel a lot of things in our gut, and we can survive without brain activity, right? People go brain dead, they are in comas.
Yeah.
But this is where we're really sustaining life. And so when we drop our consciousness into that and really get out of the spiraling thoughts, the catastrophization, the what ifs, they're going to think this about me. I'm going to feel a certain way. Something's going to happen based off of some trauma in the past. That's when we're giving away our power to something outside of ourselves. But if we
And
can
that's
be
the
in the body,
committee.
exactly. Yeah, I always say there's 3 levels of resilience: body, breath, mind, in that order: body, breath, mind, because the
Mm,
body was developed first before we ever took a breath. Most people
mm.
don't know, but it actually took us 3 to 5 weeks to learn how to breathe from our primary caregivers who were stressed because they have a new baby in the world. And it takes about 8 years, 7 to 8 years for our subconscious mind to develop. So the body is where we go first. The breath is step 2. And then watch the mind with curiosity and really question it, because that mind was formulated before we ever had a prefrontal cortex. We were given all of those questions and money doesn't grow on trees. Why can't you sit straight? Why can't you do anything right? All those little isms and sayings that we got absolutely for free from people who just heard it from the generation before them. So
Mhm.
question the mind, be in the body, harness the breath intentionally, and watch the mind. Those are my 3 levels of resilience.
I love that. We are definitely very aligned in all of the things that we care about and try to preach, especially the watch your thoughts. Are they mine? Is it
Mm,
mine? My soul self, that, the highest version of myself, did this come from me or did this come from all of this societal programming that, just came on in the background, that you can't help it? It's okay. You don't have to judge yourself for those thoughts because they're probably not yours.
Please. I so agree.
So, what say you to the people that fear listening, even for a second, to the itty bitty shitty committee?
Oh, but they're listening to it all the time. You're saying,
They
how are
to
they fearing?
consciously be with it alone. I think a lot of people
Mhm.
are distracting themselves on purpose to avoid having
Oh,
that
yeah.
one-on-one.
The 3 Ds: deny, distract, dissociate, right? The 3D world gives us plenty of opportunities to deny, distract, dissociate. Right, absolutely. It's so much more seemingly fulfilling at first to call our friend or go to a
Mhm.
bar or go to a concert or watch a show at home or buy something on the internet, and it becomes so vapid after a while. We realize that we don't even know who we are without all these things. That question, that esoteric question that so many spiritual teachers ask: who are you? Who are you? Who am I? Because right now I'm a mom, but I wasn't always.
Mhm.
I I'm a woman, but I was a girl at one point. I was a baby. So who am I? And that question of existence really, I mean, I am consciousness. I am that I am. And when we get to those elevated states in meditation, when we aren't a body anymore, and when we realize, gosh, I don't think I'm thinking. And then we're like, wait a second, I just had a thought. I'm thinking about the fact that I'm not thinking.
That's
But we
so
do sometimes reach those states where we're like, whoa, this is different. And then to not chase it, so many
Mm,
people, yeah, you're right. They are afraid of being with themselves. And I think a lot of people, they want to meditate. They don't want to meditate. They want to. But the scary thing is not so scary. It's kind of like, when you turn on the light, the shadows disappear. When we can
mm,
just discover what's there just by facing this monster that we think is there. It's like, I help people who are dealing with overwhelm and panic, especially, and they have these catastrophizing thoughts. They're trying to predict, oh my gosh, something's wrong with me. I'm going to pass out. I'm going to
mm.
have to go to the hospital. I actually went to the hospital in my 20s because I thought I was having a heart attack. And the people were like, your heart is beautiful. You exercise. There's nothing wrong with your heart. But my mind was catastrophizing, worrying that there was something wrong. And so often when we have one panic attack, then we get afraid of the fear. We get afraid of the
Ah,
physiology.
that's so true.
We don't have to be afraid of the physiology. It's friendly adrenaline. It's just It's a messenger with a message saying, hey, you need to pay attention. I'll tell you, 100% of my clients are former people pleasers. They come to me as people pleasers and they leave as former people pleasers. Because as my wife says, if you're going to people please, make sure the only person that you're pleasing is yourself. When we spend a lifetime living for somebody else, staying in the closet because we're afraid of the rejection of our birth parents, like I did, we will just shove it down and shove it down. And energy is never lost or created in the universe. It's gonna come back up. It's going to bubble back up. And that's why overwhelm and panic are what they are. It's energy that we've stuffed down and pretended like everything's
Yes,
fine when there's a dumpster fire in the background, right? And it's gonna bubble
exactly.
up and bubble over. And so if we're afraid of it, the answer is just to be with it anyway.
That's exactly like the equal opposite reaction to pushing your emotions down so that they don't get up
Mhm.
here is that they're gonna push their way through so you can't ignore them one day. So learning to let go as you go is really powerful to prevent your future self from that inner chaos that does inevitably arise. So yeah, the nervous system, of course, when we talk about people pleasing, you think about being stuck in fawn mode, fight,
Mm.
flight, freeze, or fawn. And you're fawning, you're just trying to survive, to appease, to avoid any potential conflict. But that is dysregulation too. And I think a lot of people pride themselves on
Mm.
always thinking of other people first.
Mhm.
I know
Mhm.
that it's touted in society for somebody to be selfless. So
Mhm.
what mind shifts do you apply for your clients so that they are able to give up that part of themselves that they needed to survive as they did?
Yeah, it's all about control, right? We, as people pleasers, are trying to do something or not do something in a chess play. Like, if I do or don't do this, then that person will do or don't do this. And it's a lot of predicting the future, hoping that this is how it's going to turn out, fearing some sort of a judgment or a reaction or that, and trying to understand how somebody else's data is going to affect you. And it is all about control and about trauma and trying to make sure that everybody else is okay, because if everybody else is okay, then I'll be okay. And so I teach clients all the time that there's two things you can control: your thoughts and your actions. That's it. That sounds simple. And of course, people are like, well, yeah, I know that. But are they really? Of course, like, we have children, we have pets. We feel like we can control a car, we can control our day, we can plan and make reservations, all these things that we can control. But controlling other people's perceptions is such a big energy waste. Controlling other people's
Yeah.
is so unpredictable. And if it doesn't go in the way that we think that it should have gone, according to our carefully calculated, maybe sometimes quickly calculated, like, well, what is it that I'm trying to? It's like, I had a client one time who said he and his partner were like, okay, well, do you want to go to this restaurant or that restaurant? And then they'll end up somewhere and realize that neither one of them actually wanted to leave the house in the first place because they were both pleasing. Well, I want to go to this. Do you want to go to this one? Do you want to order in? And they were just constantly second guessing, and they were lovers and partners for years. And we're just trying to anticipate, what are they trying to say? And instead of just being able to speak plainly about what they want and need. And so often our clients just don't even know what they need. They think
Wow.
that they need affection. They think that they need things. They think that they need accomplishment. And really, there's a deeper need, a deeper fear, a deeper disempowering belief that somebody else put there that they're trying to mitigate for with all these quote unquote needs. We don't need to tell somebody off. We don't need to, storm out of the room as some people do. That's not the need. The need is for the tenderness, the care, the compassion, the really listening to understand instead of to respond. That's It's what most people really need. They just want to be seen and heard and felt like, wow, I can say what I want to say and it's okay. I can be validated.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think the idea of hurt people is
Yeah.
so real. And if you find yourself wanting to lash out and say something hurtful, you'll realize that it's just because you're hurt and
Yeah.
you don't want somebody you love to be hurt. So you can kind of slow down the process instead of what you think has
Right.
to be an automatic, everything that you've seen in the movies, how fights escalate, everything that your parents did as you grew up, everything
Yeah.
that your exes have done to introduce you to the world of disagreements. It's amazing when you're able to step back from the emotion and the reaction and you can just move forward more consciously.
Yes, intentional conscious living. Most experts agree that there are a certain number of core emotions. Anger, sadness, fear, or some people say desire, sexual desire is a core emotion. Some people say surprise is a core emotion. But basically, anger, sadness, fear, and of course, joy, happiness. We know what that one is. But there's three that are ugly: anger, sadness, and fear. And then, of course, we know what that elated, joyful feeling is. But
Right.
really, anger tends to be a secondary emotion. It's covering up sadness
Oh,
or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
fear most of the time because anger makes us feel like I can do something, I can tell them off, I can throw a pillow. But if you lift
It's
up
fight.
anger, yeah, there's usually some fear or some sadness underneath it or some combination, some grief underneath there. That anger is just making us feel more powerful, but it's really fear and sadness, doesn't make us feel powerful. Whereas anger, we feel like we've got some more control. But yeah, there's always something really scary underneath.
That is something that I have sat and thought about extensively. And I've kind of realized that there are only really two categories, and it's love and fear. If you can come from a
Yeah,
place of unconditional love, everything from that category goes into that. But everything
yeah,
else, even the, what do we call it? The societal version of love that isn't necessarily unconditional and is, you're supposed to
right.
serve me, all of that stuff. It's in the fear category and people think it's love. And that's like,
I completely agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anger, fear, sadness, it's all some type of fear. If you're sad, it's because you're fearful that you're unliked or you're fearful. It's
Mhm.
looking for that refrain and then
Yeah,
realizing that everybody is either wishing that they were loved and understood or wishing that they weren't fearful. And you can always have compassion for somebody who's fearful. If they're angry,
mhm.
maybe you feel triggered and you want to get angry back. But if you realize that it's fear or their inner child underneath that, and they're just trying to find a way to protect and project themselves, it's impossible to be mad back, at least in my experience.
That's really beautiful. I love that. I love that interpretation. I've heard some version of that, but the real application that you have there is really a magical formula.
Thank you. Yeah, but I still watch people in the same situation as I am, facing the same person, and I'm doing what I do, just wanting to give them love, and the other people are like clamming up, being bothered by it. And so the whole point of this podcast and, everything that I do is to teach people that they don't have to suffer. They're
Yes.
suffering every day, all day almost. But you also talk about how people who experience the panic and the anxiety and those powerful emotions and those traumatic experiences are also very primed for enlightenment. Would you like to unpack that for us?
It's a radical view that I
I think it's
have.
so true though.
Those of us who, I mean, it's like what we led with. We're creators, we're not consumers. And when we're consuming and we don't have that flow of energy, we have this creative energy that surges up inside of us. And sometimes it can be misinterpreted and catastrophized. And then we get afraid of the
Mm.
physiology, afraid of the fear. But really, I believe, you know, panic goes by a number of different acronyms. Sometimes people say, oh, it's my ADHD brain. Sometimes people call it PTSD or CPTSD. Some people call it HSP, I'm a highly sensitive person, I'm an
Yeah.
empath. Yes, it's all of these things. And it just depends on which input we got as to what we're identifying with, saying, oh, that's me. I'm
Oh, yeah.
HSP, I'm ADHD, I'm ADD, I have post traumatic stress disorder, I have complex, all of it stems from us taking on really big things very early in life. Like Dr. Sue Morter says, she was my first coaching certification. She said, big souls have big work to do, and we get started right away. And it's those of us who took on that big T trauma who are primed to break free in the most amazing ways, because it's all about how you hold it. If we
Yes.
have this surge of energy in our bodies and we say, ooh, there's a big creative surge coming up. What am I going to do with it? Am I going to dance? Am I going to shake and let it off? Am I going to do some yoga or go running? We don't have to get afraid of it, because it's fear of fear itself, which is so destructive. We can choose to be like, ooh, this is feeling fun. See how I can ride this
Yeah.
wave.
Yeah, you can exactly. I say, like, scoff at the fear. Like, "You're hilarious that you think you're gonna stop me. I'm still gonna do it. I see you, but I'm gonna keep going." I love that, and I remember when I was younger, I was so scared that I wouldn't be able to sleep that I couldn't sleep. And nowadays, sometimes I can't sleep because my brain is just running with creative ideas. And instead of like, oh God, I'm scared I'm not gonna be able to sleep, I'm comfortable with myself. I love being in my own brain. I'm never bored. And I came up with my next business idea the other night when I couldn't sleep. So I woke up and I was like, hey, I'm gonna do this. And my family's like, what did you do all night? And I'm like, got as much sleep as I could, but I had to get some creativity out first, you know? So
That's right.
it can be beautiful. It can be beautiful. And the people that have had arguably the same experience, though no two experiences are the same, say the type of trauma can be the same, but the way that you hold and handle that, if you choose to see yourself as a victim and to let your life be negative from there on out, it will be. If you choose to
That's
see it
right.
as something powerful and
Yes.
that you can help others heal with it, it becomes gratitude. And that's the craziest thing, I'm sure, to an outside perspective, but everything that I've gone through, I'm grateful for. I would never wish it upon anyone, but I am grateful because it's what allows me to help and understand and be empathetic to everyone's situations. It's who I am today, and I love who I am today.
Precisely. Absolutely. So many coaches talk about trauma and healing, and it's a noble thing to say, become the hero of your own story. That's beautiful. Absolutely. But you referenced victimhood, and I talk about the drama triangle, and this drama triangle is so pervasive. It's in all the movies and TV shows and books, and this is what you need, all three of those roles, the hero, the victim, and the
Mm.
villain, right? And when we can step off the drama triangle entirely in our lives, whether it be with ourselves or a family member, it doesn't matter. If we can just step off that drama triangle, that's the first step to enlightenment, because
I
we
love
can
that.
go from accusing ourselves and being a victim in the same. You left that towel on the floor. You don't love me. Or like, why are you always so messy? We're being a victim and a persecutor, and we're playing all of the roles. And we do that inside of our own heads, even sometimes. But when we can just step off the drama triangle and reach that place of neutrality that's compassionate and that's
That's
not afraid,
so
right? Moving into love, just like you say.
that hits so hard because naming the three, the villain, the victim, and the hero, people might be proud of the title that they hold most, that they want to come across to the world. Say they want to be the hero. That's when white
Yeah.
knighting comes in. That's when, you know, when you're the villain, it's because you feel like you're stuck in this. You don't deserve better. You don't deserve to be happy. You have to be the villain because you have been the villain. You know, you have to be the
Mm.
victim because you have been the victim. And it's all self-fulfilling, and it is incredible to me that not more people don't know this. But yeah, like even being the hero, being a white knight to somebody isn't necessarily the best way to have a relationship with somebody. So even though it seems heroic and beautiful, the best thing you can do is be yourself, be compassionate, and allow them to be themselves and grow with you instead of trying to fix
All of it,
everything.
absolutely. The posturing, it's most literally posturing. And if we think about our posture and the way that we hold, because when we talk about fear or sadness or anger, it's all posturing. When we
Mm.
talk about just allowing the muscles in the face, the tongue, the shoulder, behind the sternum, in between the shoulder blades, the belly, when we just allow it to relax and come with an open heart to ourselves, looking at ourselves in the mirror and saying, "You matter, and I'm sticking up for you in the most gentle and most open way." When there's somebody in the office or in the family who continues to try to be a bully or a persecutor, instead of trying to rush in and be the hero or play that victim role, if we can just allow the posturing to drop, which is what happens during meditation,
Mm.
when we allow all that to fall away and just drip away, we're left with consciousness, with that intentionality that you talked about. And intentional living is my jam. I'm all about bringing consciousness to what is unconscious, to what is subconscious, to all that programming that we got for free and that we get to look at and discover and just come with an open heart with so much compassion and love and recognize that this is our opportunity to just stand open hearted and stop the
Yeah.
posturing.
Yeah. And it's never a matter of, oh, I can't believe I lived that way for so long and beating yourself up about it again. It's, wow, how crazy that there's another entire other way to live. And how lucky am I to have found it? You know, people get stuck their entire
Yep.
lives. And it's so sad to me that they, it's just stuck in the suffering. That's what it is.
Stuck in.
But you, yeah. And you talk about your breathwork method. Could you explain that a little more? Also, wait, really quick, the name of your business, Pranatava,
Pranatoma.
is that,
Yeah, the
what is
beautiful
it?
breath.
Beautiful breath. Okay.
Basically,
Okay.
yeah, prana is your life force. It's beautiful life, beautiful breath. And tova is Hebrew for
Yeah.
good. It's what you use for like Shana Tova.
Yes, that's what came to my mind, and I
Are
was
you
like,
Jewish?
yeah. Yeah, I was like, "Happy New Year?" Like, what element of that is so it's a beautiful, beautiful New Year, beautiful breath, beautiful life energy.
Mary,
That
it's
is
kind of like
awesome.
Mary or happy or good tidings.
Yeah, and it sounds
And
great
our
too because
breath,
it's already ringing in my head as Shanato.
right?
That's awesome. I love
I'm
that.
I'm Jewish, heavy on the
Yeah,
ish.
yeah.
And yes, this beautiful breath that we have is what we're so not conscious of. So when we can bring that conscious awareness to this beauty of life, to this life-giving resource that we have that's literally vibrating here, that's oxygenating every cell, bringing consciousness, bringing good tidings, merry goodness to our breath is the foundation of my company. And the Breathworth Method is infused into everything that I teach, because a lot of times clients will say, I'm not suicidal. I just don't really want to be here. And the fact that we have breath in our lungs makes us worthy of that breath. It is our life force. Our prana is our life force energy. And if we have breath in our lungs, we're here to do some work. We're
Mm.
here to affect life. And so we want to make every breath worth it. So every single little technique and tool and technology that I have, a lot of signature breaths that we do, as well as my events for after my clients graduate from Pranatova, when they are completely panic free and can say like, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, I will never have another panic attack again. When they can say that, then they can come to my breathworth sessions. Now,
Hmm.
these are intense and intended to actually release trauma from the inside out.
Wow.
They are exclusive events that are mostly here in Tampa, but we are making big plans to take them on the road and overseas.
Wow.
And so,
That's
yeah, this is
amazing.
It's
So
my
it
life's
must
work.
be a very vulnerable room
It
full of
is.
people. You have to be ready to cry, let
Mhm.
it out, do what you need to do because
Yes.
you're here to heal. Everyone's there
Scream,
to heal.
cry, shake. Yes,
That's
exactly.
beautiful. That
And
is
then there's
so beautiful.
sharing. It's optional afterwards. It's a 3-hour event, and then if you wanna stay for free coaching, basically, then you can stay and share with community about what you saw, or I mean, people go to outer space, they get visited by deceased people, they see future children, they have incredible
Wow.
experiences because we're breathing heavily, mostly in and out of the nose, but we do incorporate some mouth breathing. I like to keep everybody safe. And then we are holding the breath. We're doing breath retention. And it's during the holds that the body is releasing stem cells. The
Hmm.
ancients used breath retention to create the samadhi experience to where we can change aspects of our consciousness. In these breath holds, I'm inserting intentionally phraseology and helping to coach them into a new space, to step into a new identity, to upgrade themselves, to step into, like Sarah 8.0, Sammy 9.3. We're stepping into that upgraded identity to where we can really expand when we want to contract. That to me is the definition of enlightenment because everything on earth is expanding and contracting, except the universe itself. The universe is
Hmm.
only expanding. So when we can expand, when we want to contract, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's simple. When we can choose to find this energy and be like, oh, I'm going to dance with this. That's expanding when we want to contract. And that is the definition of enlightenment.
I couldn't agree more. The moment that I realized that all of my most beautiful growth comes from my greatest discomforts was the moment I
Yes.
went after all of my discomforts and followed them and pursued them and went to see where they took me. And here I am today, and here I will be tomorrow, continuing
Yep.
to make myself
Yep.
uncomfortable and allow myself to expand
Mhm.
from it instead of contract back because of fear. I actually read a quote today. It was, "Fear is temporary, regret is forever." And I live
That's
my life.
right.
I
I read
have
the
I
same
have a
one.
theory. Yeah, I have a theory called path of least regret. And I'm
Oh,
living
that's
it now
beautiful.
because I don't want to regret not living it. And so, yeah, absolutely. I love that. That sounds like such a powerful thing. And it makes sense that it's more closed off to lay people that aren't ready, maybe haven't done the work yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for those people that haven't done the work yet and they're daily dealing with anxiety and the suffering and there's so much that they don't know, but now they're feeling inspired, are some small practices that you would tell them to start with? Little tools.
Yeah, those body, breath, mind, awareness. Awareness is always where it begins. So becoming aware of our bodies, becoming aware of our breath, and becoming aware of what we are telling ourselves. Those are really quick tips. And then to get out of panic fast, my first tip that I'll give anyone is humming is a magical practice. So breathing into the nose and breathing out of the nose with a hum is going to do a lot of different things. First of all, the nose is much more efficient at breathing. It is filtering the air, warming the air, humidifying the air. And it actually, when we breathe out of the mouth, we're letting go of more carbon dioxide. And so it changes the oxygen and carbon dioxide differential. And then we're not able to absorb as much oxygen. We're taking in the same amount of oxygen. It's just that we need the carbon dioxide in order to decouple the hemoglobin from the blood. Sorry for the nerding out.
No, please,
But
I love it. This is
basically,
what I do all day.
and then when we hum, it increases the nitric oxide. So nasal breathing increases nitric oxide, period. But the humming itself increases nitric oxide 14 to 30 times the amount that just nasal breathing does. So it's also going to
Wow.
extend the exhale, which is going to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. So
Yes.
just
Yes.
inhaling into the nose, exhaling out of the nose with a long hum, magical.
Not only that, Sarah, but
And
it
not just
stimulates
once.
your vagus nerve, which
Of
takes
course.
you out of that fight or flight. It's like the fastest tool. I sometimes will be driving to work and the entire
Same.
time just inhaling and humming out. And it is wonderful. You show up
Yeah,
ready to tackle the day, full peace. And
it's
I love that you explained the
true.
science. That's literally what we're all about here, science and soul. I hope we stay connected, and I really appreciate you coming on today. It was so wonderful meeting you.
Oh, Sammy, you're such a delight. Did a little research before I signed up and I was like, I love this woman. I told my wife, I'm like, she's so amazing. I feel so connected to her. She's got such amazing energy. I immediately filled out your form. I was like, she's asking real questions and you're on a quest, which I absolutely admire and I feel a kindred spirit with you there.
That's beautiful. I'm so glad. Like we were talking about, you never know how you come across to people, and there's no point in, trying to control that. But I can only hope
Right.
that I come across as authentic and I help people truly change their lives. So thank you for being a part of my journey. And I would love to have you back already. I already know we have more to talk about, more science to spill, more, especially about parenting. I think I have a lot of curiosities personally. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to jump back in someday soon.
You bet. When I release my book, I'll give you a little
I'm so excited. Yes, absolutely. Please do.
fantastic.
All
I'd
right.
love to talk to you about anything and everything. Thank you so much, Sammy.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you so much, Sarah. You reminded us that panic isn't a punishment. It's energy asking to be transformed. And people pleasing, that is not our destiny. That's conditioning. The truth is, you are worthy of your own breath, your own presence, your own peace. If this conversation resonated with you, connect with Sarah and her work at Pranatava, and everything will be in the show notes. As always, thank you for being a part of this journey with me here on Shine In and Out. If you loved this episode, please leave a review, share it with someone who needs it, and give us a like. 5 stars, if you will. And remember, science and soul are always on your side. Keep shining.